And yet we're not taught to look inside. And then we have this belief system, this narrative that it's dangerous or it's scary to look inside. Or what will I see? Will I like it? Will it be messy? Will it be, uncomfortable? And yet it is probably the most beautiful, extraordinary thing. It's the butterfly. It's talking to the little, to the caterpillar and the caterpillar soup in the chrysalis thing. It's okay. You're gonna transform into something amazing.
What if you were the living embodiment of all pervasive peace? What if all sentient beings all around you increase their vibration towards harmony by merely being in your contact? What if, through conscious reasoning, focused will, and intentional living, you reform yourself, thereby becoming a catalyst and sparking transformation in others? I'm Shilpa Lewis, meditation, mindset, and mindfulness coach for midlife mompreneurs, and you are listening to Omnipresent Awareness, the podcast that will inspire you to use your story to serve humanity, and not just healing, but thriving as souls, each fulfilling their highest purpose. Namaste. Thanks for tuning in to Omnipresent Awareness. This is your host, Shilpa Lewis, and welcome back. Okay, so I'm running a little challenge as I'm trying to get more people to discover this podcast and the conversations that inspire those who value personal growth. And the best way to do that is to leave reviews. You can leave a review on Spotify, Google Podcast, or Apple Podcast. So here is a little request from me to you. If you feel like you have received any value at all from these episodes, then please write a little review and take a screenshot of your review. Once you've done that, email that screenshot to me at omnimindfulness@gmail.com. Once I get your screenshot, you will receive one of my infographics. Spark your meditation practice through Sankalpa. Sankalpa is the Sanskrit word for intention setting. Along with this, you will receive a link to my guided meditation where you can daily practice intention setting with some inspirational music and breath work. This infographic, along with the guided meditation, is guaranteed to have you start your practice for meditation with a spark. It is my gift for you for being a listener, being a supporter, and of course for you to be able to manifest the best meditation practice. So thank you for showing up, listening, and being inspired, and most importantly, taking action. I appreciate you. So again, please don't forget to take a screenshot of your review and send it to omnimindfulness@gmail.com, and I will send you that infographic and the link to the guided meditation. We are now in the season of Seeds of Abundance, which is our third podcast season honoring spring, new mindsets, and abundance. This season will cover mindful money mindset, movement and healing, law of attraction, and embracing the feminine energy. Up next, Stephanie Allen. At 24, Stephanie watched as her life fell apart. Her body was in pain, her mind was burnt out, and her heart was broken. With less than $100 and with the help of some friends, she gathered the courage to move thousands of miles away to start a new life and open her first business. Over the next 2.5 decades, Stephanie has become a seasoned therapist, instructor, published author, award-winning speaker, life coach, wellness consultant, athlete, and spiritual seeker. She is also the co-host of the popular podcast, The Soulful Leader. Movement and healing are her passion. She believes movement is medicine, and the body holds such deep connection to the buried emotions and dreams that are meant to be realized. When she reflects back over her life journey, seemingly the painful challenges were opportunities that developed her gifts that might have been buried deep in her tissues and purified the limiting beliefs, habits, and doubts, as well as fears that kept her from the real her, which was perhaps just locked down. She has helped thousands of clients live an inspired life, which is aligned with love, purpose, and contribution. She offers energizing and empowering sessions to improve relationships and help her clients recognize their strengths and leverage their value, optimize their impact, potential, and results they can have for their life and business. Stephanie is now an expert in creating mental wellness for entrepreneurs and professionals, helping them become resilient over stress, burnout, and anxiety by connecting them to source of peace, guidance, and love that resides within them. Formerly trained as a health and fitness professional, massage therapist, acupuncturist, and yoga instructor, Stephanie energizes and empowers people to make shift happen. By helping organizations and individuals get into flow, she creates a movement to fully empower physical, emotional, and spiritual health to be blessed with an extraordinary life with fulfillment. Her mission is to evolve leaders by helping them access their inner guidance, gifts, and passion to bring alignment with the life that they were born to live. Stephanie's mantra is, together, from the inside out, we can make shift happen. And now, here is Stephanie.
Hi, so how are you? This is great to be here.
I'm so excited. I can't wait for the audience to get to know about your podcasts, your services, and your history.
That's great. Well, it is great to be here. It's so fascinating. I love how the podcasts are starting to pop up and how it's, how I'm right now in the Atlantic coast of Canada. You're in the West Coast of California, and in two totally different countries. And yet here we are connecting. I love it.
Absolutely. And I have met so many fascinating women in the coaching space and all walks of areas where I feel like they're making an impact. Now, this month's theme is mindfulness and movement, or mindfulness and healing. And I heard that you have a background in dancing. So I wanted to kind of start from there. Or not dancing, movement.
Yeah, more with movement. This is actually my 30th year as a body worker. So even how I came to become a body worker was quite an experience. So back 30 years ago, I always said there were three things that I wanted in my life. And I wanted a good relationship. I wanted to be able to use my gifts and strengths in this world. And I wanted to have meaningful work. And I checked all my boxes, went to college, went to university, had a relationship, had a good job, and then everything crashed all at once. And it really shattered me. And this was back, obviously, back in my 20s. And it shattered me thinking, well, I did everything that everybody told me that I was supposed to do. Yeah. And now I have neck pain. I can't move. I'm physically stressed and tight. And up until that point, I had been a fitness consultant and I was a competitive gymnast. I taught fitness and aerobics, have ever since the 80s. So movement was my life. And so if you can't move, what's the point of living? And so that's really what happened to me, is that I realized, oh my gosh, who am I? Why am I here? If I can't, my identity was so wrapped up into moving and I can't move, now what? So it took a long journey across the country on a train, actually, and it's a big country, and a lot of wheat, a lot of nothingness, a lot of trees in Canada.
It sounds like you started with the movement again.
I was moving. I'm like, I can't stay here. I got to move. And it was a real realization that I had not, even though I took care of myself, I hadn't taken care of myself mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. I didn't even know what that meant. And so I didn't even have space. So now I was kind of forced to not move. So it's like, I came to movement and healing from a place of not being able to move and being isolated and restricted in my body, and realizing that it was coming a lot from a deep need of those three things, of wanting to feel like I had a great relationship in my life, and that, my life meant something, like it mattered. So I ended up in the west coast of Canada, and a flyer came to my door about massage therapy. And at that time, I had no intention of ever touching anybody. I'm like, oh, gross. I am not touching anyone. You know, stinky feet and hairy backs. I'm not into it. I just can't do it. But it was such a realization for me, is that I wasn't even able to allow myself to be touched. So I was so rigid and so frigid, and that's what was going on in my body. I was so emotionally filled with anger and sadness, and that I had been stuffing it. Even though I was only in my early 20s, I had been stuffing it my entire life, which is when we talk about the somatics, I would say, if you don't feel it, you can't heal it. Yes. And I was a master at moving away from anything that was painful and uncomfortable. I was like, I'll just stuff that. I'll deal with that later. I don't need to go there. I don't want to feel it, until my body completely broke down. So when I ended up taking massage therapy, and I never even had a massage at that time in my life. My first, day at massage school was having a massage, and it completely changed me. It completely opened up my heart. It opened up my mind, and it was like literally my old life passed away, and my new life was kind of opening up in a place that I had never been before. So that was pretty much my journey. And this, like I said, this is my 30th year, but from there, the path of what I've worked with clients, both one-on-one as well as in groups, is that we have become really masters at locking our bodies and essentially holding those thoughts, emotions, and beliefs inside us that we don't know who we are. We think we know who we are in the way of, well, that's just my personality, or, but we don't really know the love and the peace and the joy that actually resides from within, that we're afraid to touch that or something. Like it's just a habit. So that's what I started to work with. And I think one of the very first training courses that I took once I graduated as a massage therapist was really looking at somatics and mindfulness and meditation. And I could not sit still. I think I had such, and for anyone out there who's ever tried meditation, they go, I just can't meditate. I can't sit still. I fall asleep. My mind's too busy. That was me, totally. And what I realized, that if I sat still, I might feel. And I just did not want to feel. So I avoided it. And yet it was also the answer of allowing that internal movement to release itself so that it could process itself and heal. The best gift you could ever give to yourself is to unleash that, to allow it. And so important to find, like I know you said, Shiva, that you teach meditation, and to have a group and to have someone there with you as you're processing that, because it is so important. I call it the itty bitty shitty committee that gets in there, and we just keep kind of stuffing it down. And so meditation helps to relieve that, and helps to move that. And then you can move again. It's amazing.
Well, and it's, I consider everything energy, and I'm sure you agree that we are energetic beings. Know yourself as universal life force energy. And when those emotions are stuck or there, in whatever form they're sending you a message, it could be, oh my gosh, my shoulders are always leaning forward and tight. Or it could be something else where you just feel like that thing in your heart and where your breath is stuck. I've been there, and I believe for myself that meditation's been a journey of stages. And just when you think you've gone through that lesson of that stage, you iterate and you come back to that lesson. You're like, I thought I already learned that one.
Here it comes around again.
But yeah, just feeling, I think we're in a generation where women often, we feel things on so many levels. It could be the process of, expectations from society, like you were saying, by your 20s, you thought you had achieved what you thought you were supposed to accomplish.
Well, and I grew up in a family that were all entrepreneurs. So I was also taught, or trained, I should say, or programmed, really, that you don't feel. You don't feel, you put it behind you, you just get out there, you do it, you do what has to happen. And as women, especially, well, all beings really, but I find myself, because I am a woman, I identify with that, is that we become so empathetic. Yeah. We feel so deeply, and we don't have a lot of role models or ways to be able to release that emotion in a healthy way that's healthy for us and healthy for those around us. So, I became a master at blocking it. And in Chinese medicine, which is also I'm trained in years later, I got trained as an acupuncturist, and realizing that, the chi or the energy that's flowing, if you stop it, it's going to create toxins. It's going to create the blockage is going to create pressure. That pressure is going to create pain. And so the inner and the outer movement have to be in a dance with each other.
In a line and a dance. Yeah, absolutely.
It's an absolute dance. It's like we tend to look at the reality is out there, but that's not true. That's just a mere reflection of what's going on internally. We change the internal movement. We change the internal dialogue or the internal vision, and it changes the outer, the way that we see it or the way that we experience or dance with it.
And respond to it, absolutely. And just, about acupuncture as well. Most of my life, I think I mentioned this to you earlier, that I've always loved that self-growth path. And a lot of that journey was intuitive. So when I was trying to have my baby and had some challenges, I found that, my gut's telling me I'm going to try this acupuncture thing. I don't know what it is. Kind of like you just going, I'm going to try massage. I literally, I went to an acupuncturist, showed up, and I saw something in his display, and I thought, I think that's the sign I need. It was a picture of my guru. And I'm like, and so then I'm like, okay, let's try this thing. And I'm afraid of needles. And when the first few, I was like, but I remember driving home that day, and I was like in such a blissful state. Mm-hmm. And after 6 months of acupuncture, the challenges I had around having a baby were gone, and I had my baby. So there's something to be said about the energy and flow.
We are so much more than a physical being, and yet we get completely indoctrinated in our society that that's all that matters is the physical. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that really disconnects us to so much more potential, so much more meaning and purpose that is flowing from within us. But we don't necessarily, especially our culture, does not have a way to really connect with that or understand it. So it's important, not just for our own physical health, but I also believe that we all are here for a reason. There is a divine destiny that each and every one of us has, but we have to choose it. And we need to make enough space inside ourselves to be able to hear it or connect with it or see it. And it's all in there. And so sometimes things seemingly random, like you randomly show up at an acupuncture, or I randomly have this flyer of massage that shows up. And I don't believe that anything random ever happens. Mm-hmm. I believe our souls have this innate wisdom that is always calling out to the universe to leave signs and wonders, kind of like, Hansel and Gretel with breadcrumbs back to home. Absolutely. I love that.
When you said that.
Yeah, I love the metaphor of an oak tree. It's like you have a very tiny little acorn, and we think that acorn, it's like, how is that acorn ever going to turn into an oak? But it has the DNA encoded within it to know exactly that it's meant to reach its destiny. Or a caterpillar that has no idea of the butterfly, but yet goes through the chrysalis stage of being in the chrysalis and then transforming into the butterfly. We're all that way.
And that analogy right there about the butterfly is, there's so much movement in that journey and something you can witness from something. Yeah.
And there's so much in an internal movement. Like the external can be a very great way to, I would say there's two ways to wake up, right? You can wake up through great pain and suffering, or you can wake up through great joy and meaning. We tend to pick the pain and suffering path. I don't know why, but that tends to be the one that strengthens us to say, I don't want this anymore. What is it that I do want? And my whole mission is to help people wake up through a more beautiful way, a more meaningful way, that they don't have to suffer on the suffering. Like suffering will be there, difficulties and challenges will always be there. But with meditation and movement and mindfulness and breath and so many wonderful skills, it can help make the journey much more beautiful and much more enlightening.
More enlightening. And I've said this to anyone who will listen. Well, some people, and you've probably encountered in life in general, Western society, that there is death and taxes, there's pain, there's no pain, no gain. And I'm like, how about we go more internal? There is a purpose behind all of this. I'm more than what appears to be. Perhaps right. I'm a soul. right?
I always say, who's breathing? Like, who's making your heart beat? Who is breathing who's making those lungs work?
Mhm.
There's that ghost in the machine, so to speak. There's so much more. And yet we're not taught to look inside, and then we have this belief system, this narrative that it's dangerous or it's scary to look inside, or what will I see? Will I like it? Will it be messy? Will it be, uncomfortable? And yet it is probably the most beautiful, extraordinary thing. It's the butterfly. It's talking to the little to the caterpillar and the caterpillar soup in the chrysalis thing. It's okay. You're gonna transform into something amazing. You haven't been here yet, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And we like to hold on to the past. So yeah, movement is, there's so many levels of movement,
There's so many
for
levels
sure.
of it. Yeah, there's the internal movement, which I consider like just even like the energy of your thoughts, the energy of how you are evolving in your meditation. It could be the state in which your mind or your soul is, but it
That's
could be
right.
external, your relationship. I feel like the more I'm growing on the inside, I'm resonating in the harmony with nature. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great metaphor. I always say, when I also worked in corporate. I actually worked in corporate fitness and wellness in the oil industry years ago. And
That's probably
I
also
work.
a tough industry for women.
It is a very tough industry for women. There's not very many women that are in that industry, for sure, at that time, at least, when I was there. Um, and the building that I was in, it was a very, very tall, high-rise building. And they said, in order to go that high, you have to go that deep into the ground for its stability. And I'm like, isn't that true of our own consciousness too? It's like, if we want to move or create a movement in the world, we also have to go that deep inside. If you want that much love out there, you need to put that much love in there, inside yourself. So it's powerful. It's a great metaphor.
It's an absolutely strong metaphor. I can see this beautiful, almost, I don't want to say like a palace, a spiritual palace.
Yeah, that's in all of us. So
That's
I
an
love that.
Yeah. Now, I wanted to ask you how, um, so many women are often unaware of their own overwhelm, their own state
Mhm.
internally. And I'm not saying all women, it could be men and women, but women who are maybe midlife, who are trying to transition and trying to find that, I would say, next stage where they can still do what they want to do, but on their own terms. But maybe lack of alignment or balance, maybe keeping them from clarity.
Mhm.
So, any insights you have for those?
Absolutely. Like, for what like I said, this is my 30th year of doing body work, and I'm also transitioning to take. There's an old saying that Desmond Tutu, he said, we have to stop pulling people out of the river. Instead, we need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. And so I'm transitioning from 30 years of seeing people, like especially women, who say, okay, my children are gone now, or I'm retiring from my job, but I want to do my own business, or I want to make, meaning and purposeful things in my life outside of my family. How do I do that? And we practiced it for so long of the old way, and so being asked to actually shift, and that requires an internal shift to make the outer shift.
Mhm.
So we can no longer still be who we used to be. If we want to become who we want to become, we have to let it go. And there's a certain level of grieving with that. I see that a lot with a lot of women who are in transition. Like
Yeah.
I said, whether it's relationships or jobs, and they're wanting to go into their own entrepreneur. The biggest thing is looking at, what is it that you love. I would say, if you fall, and I know this sounds so cliche, it's like, if you do what you love, money and everything will come. It's true. And we also need, like the scaffolding, we also need the structures underneath that too. Unfortunately though, we're based on an old paradigm in the old world pre-pandemic of how we used to do business. We can't operate that way anymore, which is good news for us women who haven't necessarily been so indoctrinated into that, because there is a new way, and it is about collaboration. It is about unveiling our gifts. And there's a wonderful thing called the Ikigai, which is a Japanese saying of a way of being. And it's doing what you love to do in the way you love to do it, with the people you love most, in the way that the world most needs it done. So it's not just about finding out what your gifts and strengths are, which is a great place to start. What are my gifts and strengths? Sometimes we don't even know that. And often the things that we think we should be better, because we're so trained to focus on our weaknesses instead of on our strengths.
Yes.
We keep trying to build our weaknesses up instead of like saying, no, focus on your strengths, and then align yourself with people whose strengths are your weaknesses.
Yeah.
That's how we need to come together as a collaboration, as a cohort, as a humanity. We are seeing this that no longer do we have boundaries of countries so much. We're in a very different universe, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So
we learned through the pandemic that if anything, we need to be able to collaborate.
We need to be able to let go and to let go of the control of what we think. And that's one of the things I know when we first start out, we have to wear all hats and you need to know a little bit about everything. But once you can start to look at, I always say the number one thing, if you're overwhelmed, you're probably doing the wrong thing. Not meaning the outer thing. It's like you're putting too much time or energy or even thinking too much around something that really isn't your strength. So I always say, automate it or delegate it. Either find a way to set it up to automate it or to delegate it or to collaborate with somebody whose strength is that. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, my business partner, Marin, that joins me on the Soulful Leader podcast, she is wildly creative. She is a graphic designer, the whole thing. This is my business partner. I am not. Trust me, I am not. I'm really good with stick figures. That's about the only thing I can draw. That's it. And so when I ask her to do things that are not necessarily creative, she gets prickly. Mm-hmm. And if she asks me to do things that so where my gifts and strengths are is with people and talking and connecting. But if she asks me to look at details and the fine tuning of numbers and things like that, I fall asleep and I get cranky. Mm-hmm. So those are I would say those are the things. If there's something going on emotionally, mentally, physically, you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, you're probably outside of your flow. Yeah. And flow is the path of least resistance. So when we talk about movement, if you think of water always finds the path of least resistance. Always. If it has a rock in it, it goes around it, it goes over it, or it wears it down, but it doesn't try to fight against the rock. It finds another way. And that's what we haven't learned to do as a humanity, is to discover what is it your flow. Where do you naturally move, or your natural tendency? And that's often your gifts, your strengths, your values, your passions. If we actually focus on those things, and like I said, a lot of times we don't recognize them in us because they come naturally. So it's like, it's easy. Like, that's so easy. Yeah. Ask somebody that you love, that and say, what do you think my gifts and strengths are? Yeah. What do you think, what is my greatest value that I offer to you, to the family, to the business? Like, what is it that I make easy? Yeah. And that's why I would say I'd start. And so, yeah. And women, we're freaking hard on ourselves. Oh. We think we have to be perfect and be control of everything. Absolutely. So let it go.
I couldn't agree more. So Stephanie, I know for myself that gaining awareness of my not only emotional, spiritual levels of what's going on internally has helped me grow, but also the somatics of my body, the physical being. Maybe you could share what somatics is, how it often appears for women, in particular, maybe midlife women like myself.
Well, it definitely shows up in our body. And like we were saying before, it's like people wake up either through pain or through joy. Mm-hmm. And how it showed up in my body, I can relate to mine, is that my neck stopped moving. Like I could not move my head. And what I realized is that there's so much going on inside. So how I work with it, when I work with professionals, and I specifically love to work with professionals, because especially as women, we tend to want to separate our work life and our home life. And we talk about work-life balance. And I'm going to tell you, and this doesn't always sound very popular, but there is no such thing as work-life balance in the platform that I work with. Because when you're doing your right life work, it doesn't feel like work. And we want to be authentic. We want to be the same person that we are at home as we are out in the work life. And what we bring to our world is everything. And so our bodies sometimes it's like, it gets congested, it gets clogged, it gets thwarted and abused and neglected and all those different things. And so what'll happen is that the body, pain especially, is a message from the deep self. And so how I help you work with is, how do I understand what my deep self is saying? Like, I know it's speaking to me, actually it's yelling or kicking and screaming. What is it saying? And also looking at it from a different perspective, instead of looking at that your deep self is punishing you, is that your deep self is trying to give you a gift. It's trying to help you evolve and lighten up and lift up. And there's a gift that your deep self wants you to get before you move on to the next thing. So I work with that too. So developing an inner guidance, developing a practice of an internal practice, whether it's body mechanics, breathings, mindfulness. I call it self-inquiry. So being able to look at different questions to ask oneself, to be able to open up that space for inquiry and connection to that deep self is absolutely essential. And to be guided from that is everything, because how we do one thing is how we do everything. So it's not meant to be separate.
No. And when the word holistic comes to mind often when I now think of the chapter I'm in my career, that while I still enjoy the same elements of what I've always done in corporate, I'm more in alignment because I'm also enjoying it in the context of helping others.
Yeah.
And it's holistically aligned. I think you're right. In the corporate world, often women have this mask, like, this is me. I need to have this bravado or persona.
Yeah.
Right?
We disassociate ourselves from our true self. And that not only is it important that you connect and bring that deep self out, it's essential to where we're going as a humanity. We need to change the way we've done business, the way we've lived our lives in the past, because it's not working. And it's not going to continue to work. It's actually made us shut down and stop and reflect. And that's actually the good news. So we're in the right time at the right place to be able to integrate this, and the world needs it.
The world needs it.
And we need it. We need it.
And your services offer that with not only your knowledge, your experience, but you've also, like you were saying, you've elevated, you're growing to see what's going on down below.
That's right. I have a saying, when you're stuck in your body, you're stuck in your life. And when you're stuck in your life, and you don't always know this, you're also stuck in your body. You move one, it'll move the other. And so we work with the deep underpinnings on that to be able to release that potential that you've got inside.
The metamorphosis for the new you, right?
That's right. Be the butterfly. It's time to spread those wings and be colorful. Be out there.
So the movement itself is on, it's so much deeper than just dance or moving the body or taking a walk. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the difference between self-care and self-love. And I would say that's really what we're working with. It's like, self-care is great. Yes, you can go to the gym, you can work out, you can eat better, you can sleep better, you can, move your body. Those are great. Self-love is different. Self-love is looking at the internal narrative of, how am I talking to myself? How am I treating myself? I need to change that. I need to tweak that in a way that is more loving and kind internally. And only you know what that is. You work with self-love, you'll get self-care. Trust me. The outer will show up. You'll start eating better. You'll start sleeping better. You'll have more energy. Like, it will take care of itself. But it's the self-love that, especially as women, that we do not learn. We don't have a lot of role models, and we haven't had a lot of practice in the way of how do I love myself, and what does that really mean? Because we tend to confuse self-love with self-care, and they're not the same thing.
I love that. And often, at least the conditioning that we may have had from our past brings up feelings of guilt. So I witnessed my mom often behaving like a martyr because that considered the role or duty that she believed that was her.
Exactly. A woman's role, exactly. Their karma is to take care of everybody and take care of the community and serve and give and give and give and give. I have this wonderful image of this. It's like, when you think of a woman's genitalia, it's internal. We're actually meant to learn how to receive without guilt, without shame, and totally at our own choice and our own liberation of that. So it's like, it's such an interesting thing. And yet here we are overgivers. So it's like we need to turn it around, that and change the narrative that learning how to love yourself is not narcissist. It is not selfish. It is actually essential because we're needing it. We need to learn how to really love ourselves so that we can really love others.
Yeah, absolutely. And I deeply believe that in service to humanity, service to others is essential in when you serve yourself, or when you serve others, you serve yourself. I believe that. However, you can't do it if you're out of air, if you're
That's right.
depleted,
If you're empty.
You're empty. And often we have run on empty before we realize it.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you so much. Would you share your podcast title and the
Sure.
name of your business? And I will also plug it into the description.
Sure. The podcast is the Soulful Leader Podcast, and our website is the soulfulleaderpodcast.com. And you can find us on LinkedIn under the Soulful Leaders if you want to join our group. And we do a weekly podcast with tips and support to be able to help you live a fulfilled and soulful life too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a guest. I would love to have you back.
Thank you. I'd love to come back. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect. And I love what you're doing too. And may these messages go out far and wide so that we can really all evolve in a way that is more beautiful and kind to ourselves and to each other.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you and everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in. Check out the links in the description, and please subscribe, follow, and share. And continue to be omnipresent.